Hey Anand.
Hello, sir.
Um, we are trying to we are just trying to figure out if there is any issue with our speaker. So maybe another minute.
Nanda has just confirmed that he is joined.
Okay. Let's wait then.
Great. Sure.
Hello.
Hello, Somyandu. You able to hear
Hi,
me?
Gagan. Yes.
Hi.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, perfect.
All right. Let me
So,
share my screen.
yes, go ahead.
Wow. Gagan, is it possible for you to bigger chat window so that if anybody is interested, they can join now?
I will do that. So, Somyandu,
Or you're
yeah.
also doing through
So,
mobile?
Somyandu, within interest of time, we will let you introduce yourself and start the presentation right away. And we will be here if you need anything.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And in the meantime, we're just calling other people if they're
Yeah.
interested to join yours.
Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Good evening to all. My name is Shomyandu, and the topic for the day that I'm going to talk about is Agile in the Age of AI. Sounds interesting, huh? Well, I'm a little, I apologize for the delay because I was facing some sort of technical issues which left me with no choice but to be a little late in joining. So as I said, my name is Shomyendu, and I have been a part of the IT industry for almost 16 years plus. And for the last almost 12 years, I have been in Agile. I started my journey into Agile in the year 2007, but it was very nascent steps. And in 2008, I got an opportunity to be a Scrum Master for one of the organizations in Hyderabad. It was a product company, and it was based out of Netherlands. And there, one interesting facet that I learned was that the entire company was Agile. How magnificent, isn't it? So what we saw in that company was very, very different from the way that the previous organizations used to work, which I was part of. So since then, I have been working into Agile, into various roles. I started as a Scrum Master, then I also worked as a product owner for 5 years. I went into coaching. I have transformed and being part of organizations and enterprises in this whole journey of close to 12 plus years. Right now, I'm with DBS, serving them as a agile coach, and yeah, embracing the changes that are required to make the organization further agile. So that is a little bit about me. And if you're already not too bored because I was late in joining, let me tell you that in the next 20 minutes or so, because I'll try to adjust the timings there, we will talk a lot of things that you would have also seen in the day-to-day, into the day-to-day transactions that you have with your agile teams or in your organization, with the people and your managers and the overall enterprise leaders, and how we can look into bringing in a big change when we look into the data side of things, or the the analytics part, and then thereby also the intelligence part of it. So let's start. What I would like to talk about first are two things here: agility and AI. Now, from an agile perspective, or from an agility perspective, if you look at things, we look at today a very, very ever-changing world of enterprise. The business is changing, the ways of working are changing, the teams are changing. It's a very rapid change. And from that perspective, I would like to read out this quote from Jeff Bezos, and I quote, and he says, in this is a quote from one of the conferences in 2017, where he said that in today's era of volatility, there is no way but to reinvent. The only sustainable advantage you can have over others is agility. That's it. Because nothing else is sustainable. everything else we create, somebody else will replicate. So this is the saying of the day. If you look around all the enterprises or in your own organizations, you see leaders talking about reinventing ourselves. A lot of CI or continuous improvement that we bring in, or that we can bring in. So from that perspective, I think this is one of the well said quotes that means business in the current world of enterprises and the processes that they embrace. The second quote is by none other than Satya Nadella, our Hyderabad kid, who also says that the real mission is not about celebrating all the wow applications that we have built in AI, or Microsoft or the other organizations have built in AI. It is about democratizing the AI so that every developer who is part of the journey today, the ever-changing world of technology today, can build out their applications, these applications as such, with maximum help from the intelligent world of AI, so that we can say that we have the best in class infrastructure and the training facilities available, so that adoption becomes really, really quick. So these are the two focus areas for the day for me. And if I look at the first aspect of it, which is agility, and if we look into the various factors or the characteristics of any agile organization, we may sum them up into 5 different things. The first one is definitely about radical transparency. And what radical transparency talks about is that all your individuals, teams, your managers, leaders are well informed about the vision of the organization, about the decisions that are being made, so that collectively we are all aligned to that goal, the organizational goal. The next thing that we can talk about is definitely about engagement and adaptability. And what this talks about, if I have to summarize it quickly, it talks about how engaged are we as employees or anybody in the organization to the organizational goal. How we can make sure that our organization is human-centric, and it has a strong connection to the purpose of the organization, to the products that we are building, to the individuals and the interactions among them. It talks about the opportunities that are there in the organization or from the business end, which we may cater to. This all needs a lot of coordination and engagement. When that happens, then we can look into the the information part that we have from the engagement that we embrace, and then from there we try to make small wins daily, so that we can slowly move towards that that agility. We can slowly move towards that goal where we can give the customer and the product the advantage of the day. The third factor that I would like to talk about is transformational leadership. Now, leadership has changed. The definition has changed in the last 1 or 2 decades, where we are talking about servant leaders, where we are talking about leaders who do not command and control, but understand the nuances or the impediments or the challenges of the ground force, and try to make sure that they provide enough, facilitation, enough sources to remove these impediments. It is all about delighting the customers, because when the customers are happy, the culture of the organization is embraced well. If the end goal is not met, which is delighting the customers, any culture will be questioned. The second aspect of it is all about removing the friction in the workflow of information within the organization, removing all those frictions which are political, which are slowing you down. If there is red tape, If there is bureaucracy in the organization, how can we take that out and say that we build a lean organization, we build an organization which is embracing change and which is ever prepared for the agility that it needs. The fourth aspect here is about embracing complexity. Now, we all know that the business is changing, and what is also changing with the business is the continuous demand for innovation. Now, we know our users. We know the users of the product. What we don't know is where will the users go, or where the next generation of users will look into as something that they are comfortable with. To understand what is an unknown, there is a huge amount of complexity. And to embrace this complexity, what we need to do is to also understand what are the competitive advantage of the customer, of the product, of our enterprise, and work towards that. The fifth one talks about the customer delight and shared purpose, but this is not a surprise that any agile organization that we are trying to look up to or find interesting to either be part of or be reading about it or learn from it is always customer focused, or rather customer obsessed. They also have a shared purpose, the purpose of where they collaborate with business and try to understand what exactly they need and deliver on that vision. The vision which will make the customer more successful, the vision which will delight the customer with the right product, which is built rightly. Now, all these five aspects we all see as part of any good agile organization. But then there are also challenges. Challenges when you join an organization and try to bring in the transformation of agility. Let's try to look into those factors. There are 6 factors that I came up with in my journey and tried to summarize them here on this slide. And let me talk a little bit about them. The first one is about continuous learning and improvement. Well, we know that we need continuous learning. We know that without this we cannot move forward. We know that we have to fail fast so that we can learn from it and do the right thing. But then how easy is it to implement in an organization, especially an enterprise setup? While any and every enterprise, we are talking about bringing in the lean agility or the lean principles of thinking, how difficult is it to implement? So from the perspective of Agile, it doesn't matter which methodology we bring in, but that continuous learning experience, where is it being recorded? Where are the inferences being shared? How are they being shared? How does it reach the other teams? Are we learning enough from each other? Are something that sometimes comes up as a big challenge to implement. The next one is all about the adoption. Now, so from the continuous improvement part, if we do not manage to resolve that or bring it into practice, we also see that the adoption part is fairly minimum. From the perspective of the agile adoption, we can also see that it also means that did I manage or did we manage to change the overall culture of the organization? If a traditional organization or a component-based organization was working in a certain bureaucratic way, did we manage to change that culture? If we do not manage to change that culture, either at a project level or at a program level, portfolio level, or higher ups, we will not be able to see the adoption going deep. And this is one of the challenges that I have seen. Also, it is important in any product organization or otherwise, that the product that you are building for your customer, if you do not have the right kind of values while building it, you may never end up building the right product. So it also means that there is a chicken and egg problem here, because if you do not bring in the agile values into the organization, which also means that we are not bringing in the overall cultural change, we will also not be able to have delighted customers, because we will not be able to meet their expectation, since we are not customer obsessed. The third factor that I would like to talk about is agile by the book versus agile on the ground. Now, what I have seen is that when we have teams and members being taught about agile, when they participate in the agile trainings, what they learn might not be something that they see on the ground. It might not be something that they see on the ground because the agile adoption has not been deep, because the continuous improvement areas that they have flagged or figured out might not be implemented as they would have liked to. If they are not implemented continuously, then somewhere, either the business or some part of their team or some part of the overall program portfolio hasn't been able to embrace it well. So what matters now is that, are we doing agile only at a team level, or are we doing it at a program portfolio or across the organization level? Because if we don't do that, if it is not top down and bottom up at the same time, then we will face some sort of challenge in making our people understand that, are we really agile? The fourth thing that I would like to bring in here is the practice consistency. Now we have an enterprise. I have worked in organizations which are small, which are mid-sized, and which are large. When it is a small organization, the win is much easier, because everyone can be brought in to the ways of working or the social contract or the vision much faster. But in an enterprise organization, when we start only at a team level or a development team level with respect to embracing an agile methodology or the values of agility, we see that the practice consistency might not be same or similar across, because the products are different, the people are different, the domains are different, and so what they want might not be directly mapping because of their understanding of what they have learned versus the problems they are facing on the ground clearly. So what may happen is that the understanding of agile across these teams or these programs or these portfolios keep changing. At a certain level, or after a certain period of time, you will see there is a difference in the organization in certain areas which has been, they have managed to embrace agility much better, much faster, much easier than the other areas. So there is a need for practice consistency. Else, when these two different portfolios talk to each other, when they try to collaborate, when they try to bring in that value, there might be a big gap. The fifth area that I want to talk about is the agile team's upliftment. Now, we have touched base upon the adoption part. We have seen the challenge where the agile teams do not see what they have learned in the training session on the ground. They are not able to sometimes relate to the problems that they are facing on the ground or the data that they have on the ground versus what they have come across in their training sessions or during their coaching sessions. So from that perspective, they sometimes go into a cell. So they go into a shell because of the fact that they see that, hey, nothing is working. So you need someone to tell them that and support them in terms of understanding how to enthuse the pull and adopt the agile values, no matter what sort of challenges that they're facing.
Sorry, time check. Just 10 minutes left in the session.
Okay, sure. I'll be a little quick here. Thank you. So from that perspective, if we look into the overall Agile team's upliftment journey, it becomes very, very evident that if we are not reaching out to the teams consistently and continuously, the upliftment might not be that sure. Finally, we talk about distributed teams. Now, I mean, in this current situation of COVID, we see that everyone is distributed. All our co-located teams are in the distributed way of working. I have worked in organizations in the past where there are people sitting in Netherlands and in India working together. They're sitting in Canada, they're sitting in Brazil sometimes, and then working together. So distributed teams is not something that we can neglect. It is always there, it will always be there. So from that perspective, how mature are we in onboarding a consistent model across these distributed teams in terms of their understanding of the Agile values? Because sometimes culture, human culture also plays a big role in terms of bringing them up to the Agile understanding and embracing it. So these are the various challenges that I see that's in an organization or which we see day in and day out. Now moving further, let's try to analyze a little bit of how to resolve these challenges. Now, if I have to bring in the factors that will help us to resolve these challenges, I see that there are 5 areas. The first one is the competency model. So we have to build a competency model across the organization, which has a set goal. It has some set of values that needs to be propagated across all functions, across all departments of the organization. If we don't manage to do that, we will fail in terms of the understanding of the agility part and also adopting it. The next one is all about, again, the agile adoption. So as I mentioned, the goals should be clear. So as to what the organization needs to achieve, we need to work on activating it throughout again and again through various ways. We need to build a social contract in terms of the ways of working across the organization and its employees. We need to see that they are all able to embrace this close to their heart. And then day in and day out, when they get into the office premises, they're living those values. They're living, working a little bit towards that goal. The third one is assessment. Now, this is an interesting part. Now, well, how do you, take a pause, understand where you are, and see what more can be done? Or are we taking the right journey? Or are we deviating in terms of the goal that we had set for ourselves? So it is very important to do the assessment at regular basis and propagate it throughout, so that each of the team members and the leaders and their leaders can understand in an enterprise organization that what they can do to get people back to the value, to the goal that they had set for themselves, and embrace the continuous improvement that they would like to see on day in and day out. The fourth area is, of course, about the Agile workshop facilitation. Now, periodically, we have to do these workshops. We have to bring in the on-the-floor challenges into the room, talk through them, brainstorm them, resolve them, go back, implement it, and then empirically also make it better. Community of practices brings people closer to with respect to the various functions that they have. They crossbeat their thinking process. They understand that they need to help each other to be successful as an organization. Now, we have spoken about the Agile characteristics. We have seen that what are the challenges today we face in terms of the transformation. We have also seen that how can we probably resolve this. Now, one common thing that we would like to talk about is that all these things, we are only talking about the operational agility. But is it enough? Operational agility will only make us create or build products which are faster, cheaper, and better. but are we building the product faster, cheaper, and better on the same lines that they are already in for the existing users? Or are we also looking into the whole world of unknown? Are we looking into the world of unknown users who can be the next set of customers or users for the product or a new product or the enterprise itself? So from that perspective, if we look at initially in the like earlier days, what we know that it was a bureaucratic setup. Now, what happens in a bureaucratic setup, apart from the other pros and cons, is that the information gets locked at one level. So there is a hierarchical hoarding of information, and then the information is translated in a certain way and passed on to the next level and to the next level. So it may be, since there is no osmotic way of passing on this information, what gets to the ground is very minimum, and sometimes they are so minimum that they are not able to associate it with the end goal. So what happened is that we wanted to make organizations agile. So when we wanted to make our organization agile, any organization which starts in that journey looks into first the development teams. They look into the development teams, they bring in the methodology, they start talking about the matrices and so on and so forth. The project level, when the project level is done, they start looking into the program level. So they are slowly reaching to a point where they are saying that, hey, you know what? We are now able to create products cheaper, faster, better. And when they do that, they now go higher up in the organization. Since there is always a need for the topmost leaders to embrace agility and promote agility. Without that, it can never happen. So the entire organization, in terms of the operations, become agile. But have we reached the strategic agility, which is all about looking into the unknowns, looking into the areas which will master the organization in terms of creating market-focused products, market-focused services. So from that perspective, we do need strategic agility. Now, when we start at probably these days at 2, and then we want to reach at 4, it's a journey. And through this journey, what we know is, again, this, that we have to continuously reinvent ourselves, because the only constant here, the only sustainable thing here is agility. If we don't do that, again, we will fail. Now, since we looked into the agile part, let's quickly browse through the AI part as well. I again bring in this quote to you so that we can quickly look back and see that where we started with. Again, the focus here is to empower the engineers, empower the developers and the development team. And when we try to do that, we again have to embrace something new. And something new here is all about a data-driven culture within the organization. What I have done here, and I will quickly browse through this because we are lacking time. Again, we look into the radical transparency part. We have to be radically transparent. We have to believe in the self-service analytics model. We have to give people the data that they need so that they can start analyzing it. We cannot hoard data at multiple levels unless and until it is really data that cannot be shared. Engagement and adaptability is again something that we have to embrace. Why do we need to embrace that? Because we need to see that what are the wastes, what are the boring stuff. We need to automate that so that we give in more time and capacity back to our engineers so that they can focus on what they're good at, creative innovation. We need to look at the transformation leadership part, where all our leaders and managers are looking into transforming the organization from the perspective of data-driven decisions. And it should be normal. It should not be something that we look into as an exception. So any decision being made at a project, program, and portfolio level and higher ups should be all data and information driven. The fourth aspect is, of course, again, of complexity. Now, in this whole world of heightened and ever increasing complexity and information abundance. So what we need to do is to streamline all our decisions based on data and logic, and it always helps us to come up with the most easiest of solutions for the most complex of problems, because when we see the data we can break it down and find out the first step towards bringing in the solution. The last but not the least is, of course, about the customer delight and shared purpose. Now, we are talking about market creating value. We are talking about wowing our customers, wowing the users with respect to the customer focused solutions or customer focused services and products. Now, we cannot look at data anymore as byproduct, because we need to look into data. What is my customer enjoying as part of the product? What is the problem area that my customer is facing? And based on this data, we have to build in the capabilities back into the product or the service. Again, few ways of improving. We look at data as a core competency and not as some department sitting in one corner looking into data analytics for the heck of it. We have to make sure that it is across the organization, transforming every bit of process. We look into the foundation of governed data, trusted data, so that we can do and embrace more of self-service analytics and bring in that value at all levels, at my team level, at an individual level, at a program level, and so on and so forth. Adoption of data literacy. We have to make people aware of data. So one of the things that I've seen in the past, in 2009, I participated in something called as specification by example. Now, it focused on the whole concept of bringing in data into your requirements. Now, we, as product development organizations or application building teams, we need to understand the data, without which we really don't know what is the workflow that my user is stuck with. What is the workflow and what are the pain areas of my user, and I can solve them. Am I giving back the right solution, right data, right information to my user through the product? Make data accessible for all. Yes, very, very simple and related to the core competency being the data. Analytics should encourage improvements. Now, I think I touched base upon the self-service analytics part. Data being now the major help that we can get, we should always look into not believing in something which is not coming from the data that we collect, not believing in something that is not rational, that is not logical. A data-driven analytics will help us get away from that, that part of the information or decision making, to focusing on whatever is data-based. Right. So that brings me to the crux of why we are here, or why I'm giving you this call. For me, my engineers on the ground are like that Iron Man of Marvel who needs a Jarvis. A Jarvis is a companion, an assistant to my engineer, to my Scrum Master, to my product owner, providing him or her with the necessary information. When I walk around the floor, talking to people, talking to engineers, talking to Scrum Masters, what I see is that they need assistance. They need assistance in terms of real-time dashboards, coding assistance, automatic code reviewing, code factoring tools. They also look into the strategic decisions that they can make around this data, and so on and so forth. Hey, am I out of time?
You can go ahead and complete if you want to. That's fine.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So quickly, let me take you into a journey of Agile and AI. So while I was building this, I also looked into this journey part, and what I saw is that they both have very similar journeys. They are pretty much started during the same time, and they have seen innovative ways to make themselves better. And when they were making themselves better, they themselves were using a lot of data from their past experiences. Now, when you have these two, highly trusted tools, highly trusted partners, why not bring them together? So I would like to invite you to the wedding ceremony of Agile and AI, where I see that why these two factors should meet is because of the fact that we want quick wins and we want logical wins. We can empirically improve the process. We need to trust why we are doing what we are doing. To do that, we need data and we have to believe in it, because data in one particular organization, because of its past experiences, cultures, and so on and so forth, may be quite different from another organization. So you cannot retrofit one process into another and say that, okay, it works here, so it will work in the other place as well. It won't. So from that perspective, we need to understand how parallelly we can have a data plan and also an agile plan for the organization, so that they can meet, they can help each other, they can embrace each other. And what we get is a very, very logical decision-making process throughout the organization. So the last part is all about once these two elements have married together, what will come out of it? What we will see is that we are making a fast drive towards achieving that agility. We are looking into an end-to-end lean process where, even though there is a lot of data, we are only churning out what is required. We are focusing on what is our waste that, when it taken out, when resolved, when thrown out, will resolve a lot of the other problems that we have on the ground. Due to lack of time, I will not be able to exemplify this. Yeah, so there were some examples that I had thought in mind, but yeah, so let's move on from there. Yeah, so world after marriage of AI and Agile. So what we see that if we have an Agile powered organization and we can use the analytics part, what we will get to is a relatively faster way and logical way of looking into data, understanding it, and bringing in the CI. We will also get a quick feedback that did we manage to implement the continuous improvement measures that we thought about or we processed. We also can look into that is my team capable enough to quickly change their ways and start thinking on a different perspective, to start thinking from a different perspective because the business needs it. How can they do that? They can do that only when they have these AI powered tools which can help them in their daily learning, in quickly adapting to the change that they have to know. These robots will make them stronger in terms of gaining in confidence to make the changes that they want, either in the product or in the code. And they know that what they get back is a very realistic, real-time feedback that can help them understand that they're doing the right thing. A few other aspects also that I would like to touch base upon is around the strategic part. So the strategic agility is possible only when we build a data-driven organization. If we don't do that, we cannot look into the unknowns. We cannot look into the next generation of applications, next generation of technologies, next generation of problems and markets. So that having said, brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you everyone for your patience. My apologies again for joining late because of the technical issues. Any questions?
Thanks a lot, Somyandu, for a wonderful session. Um, due to interest of the time, and we have already started networking and we have other sessions, what I have done is I've shared your LinkedIn profile in the chat, and I will let others to ping you in the LinkedIn and ask question there, if that would be okay with you.
Perfect. That will be okay. That will be great.
Great. Thanks a lot, and we apologize for that technical glitch, but it was an amazing session, and I hope everyone enjoyed.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a good evening and a good rest of the weekend.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.